February is going to be a stacked month of PlayStation 4 game releases, and that's what we're looking at in today's video, specifically the top 16 upcoming games in February 2019. We've got a lot of big games to go over, a lot of variety in these games, so without further ado, let's just get right into it, and let's start off with arguably the biggest game of February in terms of notoriety, and that is Anthem. Anthem is the latest game from BioWare, and right away when you mention BioWare, when you hear that a game is being published by EA as well, you're gonna have a little bit of skepticism inherently. EA, because as a publisher, they're not everybody's favorite, and with BioWare, just because a lot of their recent projects, namely Mass Effect Andromeda, haven't appeased gamers all too much. But Anthem is their latest game, and it's a very ambitious project, a little bit different than your typical BioWare game, having a bigger focus on the cooperative online multiplayer rather than being a narrative-driven single-player experience. It'll still have a storytelling, but from what I can tell, based on just seeing how Anthem is being presented, it's not going to be as strong as, say, a Mass Effect. But there's definitely a story to get invested into here, and it also looks like that this is going to be a game with a lot of longevity attached to it. I imagine that BioWare is going to continually update this game for a very, very long time. We'll see if BioWare and Anthem can redeem themselves with the release of Anthem, and by the way, if you're not yet sold on the game, there will be a VIP demo at the end of the month for those of you that pre-order the game, and an open demo for everyone will be available early February ahead of its official launch on February 22nd. Moving on from that, we have the latest game in the Metro franchise, Metro Exodus. Metro, to me, is one of the more underrated franchises in all of gaming right now. If you haven't played Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, you are doing yourself a grave disservice. Go buy the Metro Redo Collection. You can find a PS4 copy of that game very, very cheap, and there are some tremendous single-player story-driven first-person shooters. Yes, they're single-player only, so as a first-person shooter, that's a little bit different. We have seen games like Wolfenstein be primarily single-player, so it's not that crazy, but Metro really offers fantastic single-player campaigns, and that's what we got out of 2033 and Last Light. And with Exodus, they look to be raising the bar even higher. The world looks a little bit more open, there's going to be more exploration. Visually, this is one of the most impressive games of all of this generation. We'll see how the final product turns out, but what we've seen thus far has looked tremendous, and this is a game where development went so well, it had an original release date set for February 22nd, but the release actually got pushed up to February 15th, so really cool to see that, and let's hope Metro Exodus delivers when it drops. Next up, we have The Occupation. The Occupation is a first-person, fixed-time investigative thriller set on Northwest England on October 24th, 1987. You play as a journalist in a detailed, system-driven world where people react to your actions and time is your biggest enemy. The game doesn't have a health bar or an energy system. When the game needs to punish the player, it does so by using up the player's time. I'm not a big fan of games with this time window, but The Occupation looks to be a pretty interesting title. It drops February 5th. Next up, we have a pretty exciting PlayStation VR title, and that is The Mage's Tale. The Mage's Tale is a game that's already been released on PC VR platforms and was received rather well. What is it? Well, it's a virtual reality dungeon crawler that transports you to a fantasy world and turns you into a wizard. As an apprentice of the mystic arts, only you have the hope of saving your kidnapped master. You'll be able to explore the ancient crypts, sewers, and dungeons to discover devious traps and secret rooms hidden around every corner. The Mage's Tale hits PSVR on February 5th. Next up, we have God Eater 3. God Eater 3 is the latest in the pretty underrated God Eater franchise. Usually, whenever you talk about God Eater, and those that know about the game will often say it's anime Monster Hunter, and I can definitely see that comparison. It follows a similar style where you're going to be fighting these big monsters, you're going to be looting better equipment, all that kind of stuff, but God Eater also has its own unique flair, and opposed to Monster Hunter, I would say that God Eater has the far stronger narrative. Even though it's not incredible, when you compare it to Monster Hunter, you're not up against much. But God Eater 3 is shaping up very nicely, and the action demo was very good, so it'll be interesting to see how the final game turns out as God Eater 3 hits the PS4 on February 8th. Next up, we have Degrees of Separation. Degrees of Separation might be the hidden gem of February. It's a puzzle platformer where cooperation is built into every move. Two contrasting souls, Ember and Rhyme, fall in love but are separated by an enigmatic force, and they need to use their powers to progress through a spectacular world of fantasy and adventure. The game touts innovative storytelling, and presentation-wise, Degrees of Separation looks top-notch. It hits the PS4 on February 14th. Next up, we have a brand new Far Cry game in Far Cry New Dawn. Far Cry is making a quick turnaround after Far Cry 5. This is more of a standalone expansion similar to what we saw with Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. New Dawn looks to be a bigger game than that, and it has you dive into a transformed, vibrant post-apocalyptic Hope County, Montana, 17 years after a global nuclear catastrophe. It's up to you to lead the fight against the Highwaymen as they seek to take over the last remaining resources. The great thing about Far Cry New Dawn is it's not being released at a full $59.99. I think that would have turned some gamers off since Far Cry 5 was just released back in March. launch, but it will be released at a more budget-friendly $39.99. Far Cry New Dawn hits the PS4 on February 15th. Next up, we have Jump Force. Jump Force is a crossover fighting game taking the most famous manga heroes and throwing them into a whole new battleground. Our world, uniting to fight the most dangerous threat, the Jump Force will bear the fate of the entire humankind. The game's single player has you create your own avatar and jump into an original story mode to fight alongside the most powerful manga heroes from Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Hunter x Hunter, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Yu Yu Hakusho, and Saint Seiya. There's gonna be a lot more featured outside of that. It looks to have a pretty deep roster, a roster that hasn't even been fully revealed yet. These jump fighting games have been around for quite a while. They're sometimes hit or miss, but Jump Force is shaping up very nicely. Hopefully this one delivers as it hits the PS4 on February 15th. Next up, we have Steins Gate Elite. If you are unaware, Steins Gate is one of the most iconic anime and one of the most well-received anime of all time, and it was derived from a visual novel known as Steins Gate. Steins Gate Elite is the definitive version of that original Steins Gate visual novel, and the story itself follows a ragtag band of tech-savvy young students who discover the means of changing the past via email using a modified microwave. Sounds a little bit zany and wacky at first, but I'm telling you guys, there is an incredible story here. And with the visual novels, there's so many different paths and so much replayability in here as well. There are some updates with Steins Gate Elite. There are some scenes directly from the anime put in there, and there are some newly animated sequences made specifically for the game. Steins Gate Elite hits the PS4 on February 19th. Next up, we have Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy. Yes, Phoenix Wright is hitting the PlayStation 4 with Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy. This includes Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All, and Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulation. All three of these games were originally Game Boy Advance titles, and they've been ported to a lot of other different platforms, including the Nintendo DS, but now they're coming to the PlayStation 4 updated to look better than ever. They've got a new facelift, so don't worry about them being originally GBA titles. They look pretty up to date. What you're going into these games for is the strong narrative. The storytelling in Phoenix Wright is top notch, and if you're into story-driven games, you are going to absolutely adore these three titles. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy drops on the PS4 on February 21st. Next up, we have the latest game in the Trials franchise, Trials Rising. Trials is back with a new game, and you can explore over-the-top action and physics-bending motorcycle racing in the latest game in the Trials franchise. All new features, more competitions, and more tracks means new challenges. While there will be a set amount of content in Trials Rising, a big emphasis of the game is the ability to create and share unique levels in Track Central using over 10,000 items available. Possibilities are endless, and yes, while Trials is sometimes frustrating, it's also incredibly addictive, and I expect no different with Trials Rising as it hits the PS4 on February 26th. Next up, we have Dirt Rally 2.0. Dirt Rally 2.0 dares you to carve your way through a selection of iconic rally locations from across the globe in the most powerful off-road vehicles ever made. You'll need to rely on your instincts with the most immersive and truly focused off-road experience yet, including a new authentic handling model, tire choice, and surface degradation. Power your rally car through real-life off-road environments in New Zealand, Argentina, Spain, Poland, Australia, and the US. Dirt Rally 2.0 drops on the PS4 on February 26th. Next up, we have NieR Automata Game of the Yorha Edition. Yes, NieR Automata is getting a definitive version. This version isn't anything too crazy because NieR Automata didn't have a lot of sizable DLC released for it. However, the NieR Automata base game is already so good that just getting a little bit of extra on top of that, that's a fantastic value, especially considering it is being released at $39.99. Now, even at that $39.99 price point, because the game is a little bit older, I would probably say wait on a sale for this. When it's down to, say, $19.99, it would be an awesome buy. Now, on top of the base game, here's what you get. You get 15 PS4 avatars, PS4 dynamic theme, 6 DLC pod skins, and DLC mask accessory. Again, all of that will be available for $39.99, and NieR Automata Game of the Yorha Edition hits the PS4 on February 26th. Next up, we have Ghost of a Tale. Ghost of a Tale is an action RPG in which you play as Tilo, a mouse and minstrel caught up in a perilous adventure. The game takes place in a medieval world populated only by animals and puts an emphasis on immersion and exploration. It features stealth elements, disguises, conversations with allies and enemies, and quests. This is a game that's already been released on PC, received pretty well over there, and now it hits the PS4 sometime in February. We still don't have an exact release date. Next up, we have a highly anticipated free-to-play title in Path of Exile. Path of Exile was originally expected to hit the PS4 back in December. Unfortunately, it got hit with a delay, but now it looks to be dropping in February, and it's easy to see why so many gamers are excited for this. It's one of the best received free-to-play titles on PC. It's a Diablo-like game, and best of all, with Path of Exile, if you don't want to drop any real-world money, you can have a great experience with the game, and you can invest so many hours into the game and have a quality time with it. The PS4's free-to-play offerings have been quickly expanding, and Path of Exile is going to be another massive addition. It drops sometime in February. Again, we don't have an exact date, but we should see it arrive in February. And finally, we have Overkills The Walking Dead. Overkills The Walking Dead is an action-filled 4-player co-op multiplayer first-person shooter set in Washington, D.C. after an outbreak brought the dead back to life. In this test of skill, strategy, and teamwork, players will band together with up to 3 friends on a variety of different missions, securing supplies as well as survivors to strengthen their camp, threat of both the dead and the living by any means necessary. Now, this game was already released on PC and it wasn't received all too strongly, so I wouldn't recommend you to drop full price at it, but down the line, I imagine it's gonna hit the bargain bin pretty quickly. When it's down to that $9.99 to $14.99 range, maybe it'll be worth a pickup. Overkills The Walking Dead drops sometime in February. So that's gonna wrap up this video. 16 big PS4 games that are coming in February. A lot of games, a lot of variety here. Whether you want a great online multiplayer game and something like Anthem, a single-player first-person shooter in Metro Exodus, a quality fighting game in Jump Force, more Far Cry and Far Cry New Dawn, an action RPG and God Eater 3, there's so much to get invested into in February. Let us know what games you're planning on picking up next month and sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.